In the 4th year of our marriage, under his best friend's urging, Andrew secretly took in and started seeing a beautiful painter behind my back. That day, I overheard him arguing with that same friend. "Logan, you're about to drag this in front of Emily? You guys were the ones who pushed her onto me in the first place. Now you expect me to clean up the mess?" Someone asked him, "Which one do you want us to deal with, Andrew?" He hesitated for 2 seconds before saying, "Logan is different." Right before the plane took off, I accidentally overheard 2 girls talking in the row ahead of me. "Wait, what? Are you saying your boyfriend is Andrew Carter? Are you kidding? He's got such high status, and everyone knows he has a great relationship with his wife. Stop making stuff up." The girl being doubted scoffed and pulled out her laptop. She opened a folder titled Boyfriend. "If you don't believe me, see for yourself. We've been together for 6 months. He's a completely different person from how he looks in financial magazines." She finished with a shy but smug smile. Her expression was full of implications. "No way that's really Andrew Carter. How did you two even meet?" her friend asked. Proudly, the girl launched into her story. "You know my situation. My family's poor. I've got younger siblings to take care of, and my mom's bedridden. I have to work part-time all the time to pay for school and support the household. I met Andrew while working at a bar. My boss even helped set us up. After we got to know each other, Andrew kept asking me out. He brought me flowers, gave me diamonds, and even sponsored my last solo art exhibit. This trip to France, he paid for everything. Not bad, right? Want me to have him introduce some of his friends to you?" she teased. Her friend was visibly uncomfortable. No thanks. This is clearly a sugar daddy situation. I'm telling you, you'd better get out before it all blows up in your face. You're just the other woman. Do you really think he's gonna leave his wife and kids for you? That's ridiculous. Andrew's just into you because you're new and pretty. Give it a while. He'll get bored and dump you." The girl's face darkened. "Don't underestimate me. That Mr. Carter you're talking about is completely wrapped around my finger. If I wanted him to divorce, all it would take is 2 sentences." Right after that, she pulled out her phone and made a call. The person on the other end picked up immediately. A man's cold voice came through the speaker. She instantly switched to a spoiled, whiny tone. "Andrew, you don't love me anymore? You don't even recognize my voice? I knew it. You're a two-faced jerk. I'm never speaking to you again." Then, I heard Andrew say something I'd never heard from him before. "No, baby. I was just in a meeting. I didn't realize it was you calling. I'm sorry, it's my fault. What do you want as an apology? A purse? Jewelry? I'll buy it all for you. Oh, didn't you say you wanted to hold your own art exhibit in Paris? I've already arranged people to start planning it. Next time I'll take you there myself. You can set everything up however you like. I even invited some famous artists, including the ones you admire most. So baby, don't be mad, okay?" With every word he said, the girl's smirk deepened, and her friend looked more and more shocked. As for me, watching this side of Andrew I'd never seen before, made my heart turn cold. Then the girl said something insanely arrogant, and her friend gasped in horror. "Are you crazy? You actually dared to approach Emily? She's Andrew Carter's legitimate wife. Don't go too far, okay? Just because we're best friends doesn't mean I can watch you confront his actual wife. Can you please behave? I don't want to see your name on the news someday." The girl looked completely unbothered by her friend's warning and even showed off more boldly. "What, you scared now? I said I can make Andrew divorce his wife for me, and I will. Just wait. When I'm on top of the world, I won't forget you." After that, the 2 of them stopped talking. But just then, my phone lit up with a message from Emily. "When do you land? I'll send someone to pick you up." It was from Andrew. I asked, "Don't you have time?" He replied gently, "I have a few meetings to attend. I've arranged for Sean to wait for you at the airport." At the same time, the girl from earlier suddenly squealed in excitement. "Ah, my boyfriend is personally coming to pick me up at the airport. Babe, you can head back to school on your own." When I got off the plane, sure enough, it was the familiar Sean standing by the car holding a pot of lilies. From a distance, he waved at me, and then came over to take my suitcase and the scarf from my hands. As usual, he started making excuses for Andrew. "Ma'am, Mr. Carter had a few unexpected meetings added to his schedule. He really couldn't get away to come pick you up himself. But he gave very clear instructions. I'm to take you to your favorite Cantonese restaurant for a bowl of soup, then we'll stop by the luxury boutiques for a stroll before I take you home. I replied with a simple, okay. Just as I was about to get in the car, I heard Andrew's voice playing through the speaker system. Baby, how was the trip to France? Did you have fun? Where do you want to go next, Italy or Los Angeles? I looked up instinctively, but Sean quickly raised the pot of lilies to block my view. Ma'am, it's chilly out here. Please get in the car and warm up. Without saying a word, I quietly got in. From behind me came the angry, tearful voice of a young girl. I'm not going. I don't want to go anywhere. I'm going to find Emily. I'm going to tell her everything. If you won't ask for a divorce, I'll do it for you. Humph. You stopped loving her a long time ago. She's just dragging you down. Why are you staying in a loveless marriage? I feel sorry for you. Andrew, we're the ones who truly love each other. The person who isn't loved is the real third wheel. Just let her go, okay? Then she started crying, and for once, Andrew, who was always so composed and aloof, panicked. He tried to calm her down. Holly, I'll find time to talk to her about the divorce. Please don't cry, okay? They continued talking, but Sean had already started the engine. I didn't hear the rest. I only caught a glimpse of them, through the rearview mirror, locked in a passionate kiss. At 8 p.m., Zachary suggested throwing a welcome back party for me. He was known in our social circle as a bit of a playboy. He said it was a gathering for me. But really, it was just an excuse to bring a bunch of beautiful women and handsome men together. As for Andrew, he'd picked up a taste for this kind of indulgent socializing, something he only got into after meeting Zachary. At first, I turned a blind eye. People around me kept saying that in our world, it was normal for men to keep a side circle of women, as long as it didn't interfere with the interests of both families and as long as he didn't ask for a divorce. There was no reason to make a fuss. Some even said we women should learn to live a little, just like the men did. Otherwise, life would be unbearable, full of waiting, day after day. Even my mom, she never got into dating younger men, but she found other ways to entertain herself, like playing endless rounds of mahjong with rich housewives. Winning or losing wasn't the point, it was just something to do. She often told me, "You've already come this far. Stop pretending to be the dignified one. If you can get a divorce gracefully, then do it. If not, at least try to breathe a little. Let some fresh air into your heart before you suffocate yourself and make yourself sick." But I didn't listen to her. I didn't go out looking for another man. I was too busy with work anyway. I'd just taken over my position and was overwhelmed. And the rest was just me being foolish. Like some naive woman, I believed that Andrew was just messing around, that he wouldn't actually fall for someone he just met. But reality didn't go the way I had hoped. He really did fall for her. Now, I was starting to lose control over this marriage. I've always been the type to learn the hard way. I have to slam into a wall, bleed, and break before I finally give up. And now that I've hit that point, whether it's this marriage or love itself, he can no longer give his loyalty to me alone. So I thought, fine, let it be. Andrew made up some excuse about being too busy to attend the welcome back party Zachary threw for me. But just as it was wrapping up, he showed up anyway. The first thing he did, however, wasn't to come find me. Instead, in front of everyone, he grabbed Zachary by the collar and dragged him into the restroom. I had just finished a virtual meeting and happened to overhear their conversation. "Zachary, things have gotten out of hand. Holly insists on going to Emily. No matter what I say, I can't talk her down. Didn't you say someone like her would stay quiet if we just threw her some money? Why is she not acting like you said? She's determined to come clean to Emily. What am I supposed to do? If you hadn't pushed me into secretly keeping another woman in the first place, I wouldn't be in this mess. Well, it's your problem now. You created this disaster. You clean it up." His anger boiled over, and Andrew punched him hard in the face. Blood immediately started dripping from Zachary's nose. But Zachary wasn't the type to back down. He licked the blood from his lip with the tip of his tongue and smiled. "Come on, Andrew. Other men manage to balance their mistresses and their wives just fine. Why can't you? Or wait, have you actually caught feelings? Let a college girl who hasn't even graduated yet get the better of you? Andrew stayed silent. Those few seconds of silence gave Zachary all the answer he needed. He let out a mocking laugh, then raised 2 fingers. Pick one. Which one do you want me to help you get rid of? Andrew looked conflicted as he stared at Zachary. After a moment, he said, Holly is different. She gives me things Emily never could. I'm genuinely happy with her. But Emily has been with me for so long. Sure, it was an arranged marriage, but there are feelings there too. And she's been a huge help with my work. She's saved me more times than I can count. Honestly, I don't know how to choose. Zachary snorted. I get it. You want both. No problem, this kind of thing is child's play. With that response, a smile finally crept onto Andrew's face. But just as he turned to head back, his expression froze. Zachary lit a cigarette and followed his line of sight. What? You've got your eye on someone else already? Let me see, does she look even better than Holly? But before he could finish, he followed Andrew's gaze and spotted me. Emily? I responded calmly, yeah. Then closed my laptop and looked at Zachary. You don't need to help him deal with me. I'll walk away on my own. Then I looked straight at Andrew, face expressionless. I'll have my assistant prepare the divorce agreement by tomorrow. I'll ask you to review it then, Mr. Carter. The first time I ever caught Andrew cheating with my own eyes, I had just returned home after working late. I called for the housekeeper several times but got no response. Instead, I heard the clinking of glass coming from the bedroom upstairs. From the sound alone, I could tell it was Andrew's favorite bohemian crystal glass, the one he only used when he was in an exceptionally good mood. When he poured whiskey into it, he'd always swirl the rim with his fingertips, watching the light dance along the edges. He never let anyone else touch those glasses. Unless he was in a fantastic mood, they stayed locked away. As I walked up the stairs, I thought maybe he'd landed a new research deal or business project. That would explain why he was so happy. But when I reached the doorway and peered through the narrow gap, I felt like my entire body had frozen. There she was, Holly. That doll-like college girl. She was kneeling between Andrew's legs, wearing my Chanel bathrobe. Her pale legs were wrapped around his waist, and her fingers were toying flirtatiously with his tie. I staggered backward, losing my balance, almost falling before I managed to steady myself. Andrew had always been alert. The moment he heard a sound, he quickly pulled the girl off him and rushed toward me. Emily, why are you home? Didn't you say the shareholders' meeting was early tomorrow, and that you were staying overnight at the office? Yes, I had said that. But I was worried about his chronic gastritis flaring up, and I knew no one else could take care of him like I could. So I decided to come home and make him a bowl of congee. Then returned to the office after he fell asleep. All these years, whenever his stomach acted up, the only food he could keep down was the rice porridge I made. That's how much I cared. That's how much I considered him. And yet, to spend time alone with this woman, he had lied to me without a second thought. I couldn't hold back the fury that erupted inside me. I slapped Andrew hard across the face. You were never like this before, I said, holding back tears, staring at him, hoping for a reasonable explanation. But he didn't give me one. For a brief moment, I saw a flash of guilt in his eyes, but it was quickly masked by an air of entitlement. That was then, he said. But now, this is how everyone is. Look around, every successful businessman has women hovering around him. I'm only keeping one. It's not like I'm your dad with 3 women in the country and 5 more overseas. And what? Are you going to say I don't make enough money to support you? So that gives you a reason to hang out with other men in the social scene, pretending it's all about work? I'm a man, I know what those meetings really are. He let out a scornful laugh, then shouted with resentment. Emily, I've given you more than enough respect. I never forced you to stay home and be some housewife, never told you to give up your career. I've indulged you. Can't you just learn to tolerate things like the other wives do? Look around, look at what those other women are doing, and look at yourself. Can't you reflect on why I had to find someone else? Everything I've done, it's because of you. So what were those other wives doing? Playing mahjong, shopping for handbags, buying luxury goods, giving birth, raising kids, then going on to raise kids for their husbands' mistresses and second mistresses. That was the mold. And because I didn't give up my career, Suddenly I was the outlier? He gave me no real solution, just told me to take a hard look at myself. Then he stopped coming home altogether. During that time, I kept hearing stories about him showing up at banquets and parties with the woman he loved. He even paid a fortune to set up half a gallery for her. He picked her up from school in a different luxury car every day, helping her keep up appearances while throwing my dignity out the window. Their relationship was like an open deck of cards, on full display in our social circle. But the sad part was, no one even batted an eye. Everyone just accepted it. One of the socialites even said to me, "The more glamorous a marriage looks on the outside, the more broken it is on the inside. Just wait, your husband will get tired of her soon enough. Give it 3 months tops, he'll dump her. You're Mrs. Carter. You need to be more magnanimous. Don't act so jealous, it's unbecoming and makes people laugh at you. Come on, we're short one for mahjong, play a few rounds with us." I didn't know how to play mahjong. But my mom, she was obsessed. She was known for being a hardcore player, day and night, hardly ever home, just to get a few more rounds in. And when she found out that I was going through the same kind of marriage she had, she actually looked pleased. She teased me with a chuckle, "Then let your mother teach you how it's done." As the self-declared queen of the mahjong table, she told me, "Sweetheart, marriage is just like mahjong. Whether you draw good tiles or bad ones, you play your hand with dignity. Don't make a scene. Don't let people laugh at you. Now come on, let mom see your luck. Pick a tile for me." She took my hand and helped me draw a bamboo 9. She burst out laughing. Hoo, pay up, huh? My daughter's got the hands of a born mahjong player." Then she really did try to teach me how to play, but I couldn't focus. In just a few rounds, I lost all her chips. She wasn't mad, though. She just looked at me with concern and said, "It's just something to pass the time. If you can't learn it, no big deal. But if you've got something else to do, something that keeps you grounded, then go do that. Don't end up like us, fooling ourselves through the rest of our lives." Back then, I didn't really understand what she meant, so I kept going back and forth between work and the social circles of wealthy wives, thinking that if I could just adopt their mindset, maybe I could stabilize my marriage too. If he wanted to sleep around, let him. As long as he remembered to come home, as long as he knew I was his real wife, I could endure. But then, half a year passed. I hadn't heard even a whisper that Andrew was growing tired of her. On the contrary, he seemed to be treating her even better. That's when panic finally set in. When I turned to the other wives again, asking what I should do, they avoided my eyes while muttering awkwardly, "Well, who would have thought your Mr. Carter was actually so loyal? If things really don't work out, maybe just let him bring the mistress home. Happens all the time in our circles." The moment someone mentioned my mom, the group fell silent. One by one, they pushed back from the table, made up excuses, and left. Now, watching Andrew struggling so obviously to balance the two of us, I figured, what's the point anymore? There was no need for me to keep holding on to this marriage. I had once said that as long as he could stand firm and choose me without hesitation, I could endure anything. But now, it was painfully clear. That girl, Holly, had completely bewitched him. I'd been blind for half a year, but I wasn't going to be blind for a lifetime. From here on, we'd go our separate ways. The moment Holly found out I had agreed to a divorce, she immediately threw an art exhibition to celebrate. She invited nearly everyone in our social circle, including me. It was Shanghai's rainy season, and the air was thick with sticky humidity. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of Holly's gallery, watching the rain streak down the glass and splash onto the pavement. Just beside me, prominently displayed in the room, was a photograph of Andrew and Holly kissing on a beach. The rest of the photos weren't much different. Andrew holding her by the waist, the two of them kissing under a grape arbor at a private vineyard. Plus, even photos taken in my own bedroom, in my swimming pool, in my office. Holly was young and full of swagger, a master at flaunting her wins while pretending to stay sweet. It was hard not to be infuriated just looking at her. "Well, Miss Chen," she said with a smirk, "do you like my new exhibition?" She was wearing a mint green chiffon dress that fluttered around her. The scent of sweet freesia perfume clung to her skin. Around her neck was a vivid emerald necklace, one I immediately recognized. I had bought it at an auction 2 years ago for $300,000. She'd gotten so used to stealing my things that now she even dared to wear them in front of me. Without another word, I reached out and yanked the necklace off her neck. A red welt immediately formed where it had been. Holly shrieked and clutched her throat, panic in her voice. "Emily, this is my exhibition. What do you think you're doing?" All eyes in the gallery turned to us. I calmly walked over to the trash can and tossed the broken necklace inside. You just threw away $300,000? Holly cried out, pushing Andrew aside and rushing to the bin. She dug through it desperately until she found the necklace and let out a heavy sigh of relief. I looked down at her with cool detachment and said, "You want the man, you want the jewelry, so desperate for trash?" She pretended not to understand the insult and quickly linked arms with Andrew, once again flashing her fake smile. "Not a fan of the photos?" she asked, eyes locked on mine with that same taunting tone. "They're all of Andrew, you know. My husband helped me pick every single one." She emphasized my husband, deliberately, making sure everyone around could hear. She wanted it known that Mrs. Carter was no longer Andrew's one and only. I smiled and ran my fingers along the edge of one of the photo frames. "You two do make quite the pair. Talented man, beautiful woman, but are you sure these photos won't become evidence in court?" Holly's smile faltered. For a second, she looked confused. Then her face went pale. "What do you mean?" I pulled out a flash drive from my bag and waved it casually in front of her. "Miss Shue, Andrew and I aren't divorced yet. This drive contains all the evidence of his infidelity, security footage from the private club's underground parking lot, and this lovely exhibition, of course. It's all more than enough to ensure Andrew walks away with nothing." I let out a cold laugh and added with a sneer, "Did you really think you'd get to split the assets after wrecking a marriage? Read a book sometime. Every single dollar he spent on you, every bag, every outfit, that house, came from our marital assets, including that shimmering Prada gown you're wearing right now. If I wanted, I could make sure you walked out of here naked. But don't worry, I wouldn't want the streets of Shanghai cluttered with another half-naked woman. Consider this my charity to you. As for the rest of the money Andrew spent on you, every cent of it, you'll pay it back." Holly was clearly intimidated by my presence. After all, she was new to this world. Maybe she had figured out how to manipulate Andrew with youth and beauty, but handling me was an entirely different matter. She still needed a lot more practice. Before I left, I tossed a copy of the divorce agreement in front of Andrew. "Emily, just let me explain," he said. I cut him off. "Explain what? How you used our shared assets to keep a mistress? Or maybe you want to explain why your bank statements show a dozen large transfers, all going to a college girl named Holly Sue. Or perhaps you'd like to explain why your private doctor flew thousands of miles just to treat a 60-year-old woman in some rural town. Andrew Carter, you'd better stop while you still can. Don't force me to drag every single dirty secret you've been hiding out into the open." There was a flicker of fear in his eyes, but it quickly faded into the same arrogance he always wore. "You think this is enough to threaten me?" he scoffed. "It's not a threat," I replied coldly. "It's a notice. Because if you don't take this seriously, those same pieces of evidence will be all over the media by tomorrow. And the journalists, they'd love nothing more than to watch a business legend fall, brought down by a girl in her early 20s. That headline alone would keep the business world laughing for weeks." I turned to Holly and lowered my voice just enough for her to hear. "And as for your beloved little girlfriend, the internet will rip her to shreds. How she seduced you, how she moved on your body, all of it will be twisted, sensationalized, and plastered everywhere. She wants to be an artist, right? Have her own exhibitions? That dream dies today. Oh, and you probably don't even know this, do you?" I glanced back at Andrew. "That gifted young painter you're so proud of? Her fingers have never even touched a real canvas. Don't believe me? Go ask her. Her so-called masterpiece Bloom was painted by someone else, a studio assistant." Before Andrew could respond, the fallout had already begun. Holly panicked. She turned to a nearby girl, gripping her shoulder and shrieking, "You told her? We were best friends, weren't we? Even if you were going to betray me, couldn't you at least keep your mouth shut for the price I paid you? If it weren't for me, you wouldn't even be able to afford a cup of coffee in Shanghai." The girl wrenched her arm away and shouted back just as angrily, "I warned you. I told you you'd never be able to beat Emily. But you didn't listen. You brought this on yourself. Don't drag me into it." Ignoring her, Holly snapped, "How much did he pay you?" The girl raised 3 fingers. 300 grand. Holly let out a bitter laugh. 300 grand? That's what I meant to you? Fine. Our friendship is over? Then she glanced nervously at Andrew, but he looked stunned, like he'd just realized he'd been conned. His wide-eyed stare was locked on Holly, and his face twitched in disbelief. I knew that look. Embarrassment. Because just before this exhibit opened, Andrew had publicly praised Holly's work in front of several prominent art world figures, saying this was the collection she was most proud of. That every painting captured her profound understanding of life. He even said having someone like Holly as a protege is a true gift. And now, the truth was slapping him in the face. "Apologies, everyone," Andrew suddenly said. "Holly isn't feeling well." He was trying to shut the whole scene down. Or maybe he was just afraid more secrets were about to come out. His eyes flicked to me, silently pleading for me to stop. But I wouldn't. I was the one who decided how this farce ended. I gave my assistant a slight nod, and a moment later, the large screen behind us lit up with a video. In a dim studio, a girl with twin braids was painting sunflowers, identical to the bloom piece displayed in the gallery. Holly was sitting beside her, casually scrolling through her phone, occasionally throwing out a comment or two. "Emily, that's enough. What are you trying to do?" Andrew shouted at me. "So what if the piece wasn't hers? She's young. She made a mistake." Holly collapsed to the floor dramatically, playing the part of the helpless girl once again. But it was already clear, Andrew had known all along that her artwork was fake, and he still chose to protect her. The gallery fell into an uncomfortable silence, broken only by the sound of Holly's sobbing. I stood there, staring at the scene in front of me with cold indifference. At first, I had exposed Holly's secret just to humiliate her. But now, it seemed I might be the one who ended up humiliated instead. Even though they looked disheveled and embarrassed, the way they clung to each other with such intimacy made it clear. My heart had been cold for a long time. I waited until the last guest had left before slowly rising to my feet. Their photo, the one where they smiled the brightest, seemed to mock me. "You lost, didn't you?" I nodded. "Yes, I lost. But I just won't love anymore, that's all." When I pushed the asset division agreement in front of my mother, the plane trees outside the floor-to-ceiling windows rustled in the autumn wind. The document was 28 pages long, bound with a tiny diamond-studded brooch, repurposed from the wedding ring Andrew had once given me. "Isn't this a bit too much?" my mom asked, adjusting her gold-rimmed glasses. Her fingers slid across the paper as she flipped through the pages, a trace of doubt in her voice. Clause by clause, the pages detailed it all. 49% of Story Group's equity, leaving Andrew with only 1%. 3 prime office buildings under the Story name. 7 deep-sea freight ships, all transferred into my personal trust fund. Even Bloom, the piece Andrew had purchased at an exorbitant price for Holly, now lay quietly in my private gallery, its surface slashed with knife marks. I twirled the titanium ring on my finger and answered plainly, "It's not too much." My mother gave me a worried look, but didn't say anything more. I continued, "I'm also gathering evidence of Story laundering money overseas. Barring any surprises, we'll have solid results by the second half of the year." Her fingers trembled, spilling tea over the section labeled Emotional Damages Compensation. A column that read 100,000 yuan, 9 figures long. She stayed silent for a long time, then stared at me for what felt like even longer before finally saying, "You're just like your father when he was young. Neither of you could stand losing, not even once." She reached out to touch my head, but froze when her hand grazed my hair. "But you're not like me. I never dared to ask for anything, not a thing." I returned the agreement to the safe. "So that's why you've spent your life venting through mahjong?" I asked. As the safe door shut with a heavy click, my eyes sharpened. "Mom, I never wanted to live the kind of life you did. It's miserable. Divorce him. I'll take care of you from now on." Holly's gallery later posted a sign, closed for reorganization. The fraudulent paintings she'd commissioned from ghost artists triggered an investigation. Experts in auction houses that had purchased her works at premium prices joined a collective lawsuit. The jewelry and diamonds Andrew once gave her were either returned to me or seized by the court to pay off debts. Someone even captured footage of her being chased on campus. Her Cartier bracelet had been swapped for a cheap knockoff. Her once perfect hair looked like tangled yarn after being ripped out. The cruelest irony? She had grown out her hair to look more like me, but now half of it had been torn out by furious creditors and strangers disgusted by homewreckers. Her bloody, patchy scalp was on full display. Eventually, the sign outside her once bustling street gallery changed from closed for reorganization to everything must go. A space that had once been valued at $5 million could now be bought for just $1 million. I didn't hesitate. The location was solid, and as a businesswoman, when I see opportunity, I take it. So I spent $1 million to acquire it. But not long after, Holly returned the money to me, because she knew what she owed me was worth far more than that. Once the property was mine, I began extensive renovations. I stripped away the soft, delicate atmosphere of the former gallery and transformed it into something else entirely, an awakened art space. This was nothing like a traditional exhibition hall. It was a mental stronghold, a social experiment. I had seen something like it once in Paris, an exhibit themed around breaking the shackles placed on women and embracing the self. It wasn't just an art space. It was an education hub, a sanctuary designed to awaken female self-awareness, to inspire women to shed emotional entrapment, and to rise again from the ashes of brokenness. As for Andrew, the once untouchable business prodigy, he now stood outside my conference room every day, trying to persuade me to go easy on him in the business world, trying to beg for mercy, hoping I'd give him a way out. But each time, I shoved his hand away and cast a scornful glance in his direction. "Mr. Carter," I said coldly, "just looking at you feels like a waste of my time. Please stop coming here. You destroyed your own future with your own 2 hands. What does that have to do with me? Why not go learn from those other bankrupt heirs, go hang out at underground casinos or low-end lounges? Maybe you'll find a way out." And Andrew did go to the underground casinos, but not to gamble. He went to borrow money. He wanted a comeback, and for that, he needed at least $50 million. The banks wouldn't lend to him, and the so-called friends around him couldn't cough up that kind of cash either. So he turned to the black market. My mom, soft-hearted as always, came to the office after finding out Andrew had borrowed from loan sharks. "Emily," she pleaded, "you were married once. He's really struggling now. Can't you help Andrew just this once?" She'd always liked Andrew, especially after that time when she suffered a sudden heart attack, and Andrew immediately flew in his private doctor to save her life. Since then, she'd only grown more fond of him, seeing him as a capable and dutiful son-in-law. And maybe Andrew really did have some talent in business, because after getting that loan, he made a comeback in just 3 months. People said Andrew Carter was bound to rise again. His downfall couldn't possibly be permanent. Some even said the only reason I was doing well in the market was because he had held back out of sentimental loyalty. Now that I'd pushed things too far, he wouldn't show mercy anymore. Some investors even broke contracts with me, paying massive penalties just to go work under Andrew again, saying they'd rather serve him than continue supporting me. But I didn't care. So what? I didn't need their money. Still, Andrew wasn't the triumphant figure everyone thought he was. I looked into his situation. Every cent he earned barely covered the interest on his high-interest loans. Even Holly, once his most treasured girl, couldn't scrape together $20,000 to pay her tuition. One day, I found Andrew hiding from debt collectors in the wine cellar of my vineyard. He was curled up, trembling. The estate manager told me he'd been hiding there for a week. Out of respect for the kindness Andrew once showed him, the manager helped keep it from me and let him stay. If I hadn't randomly decided to grab a bottle of red that day, Andrew might have kept hiding even longer. I stood at the top of the cellar steps, heels clicking against the wood, looking down at him from above. "Mr. Carter," I said flatly, "please leave. This is a private estate. We don't admit outsiders." He looked gaunt, lips dry and pale. "Emily, I'm sorry. I never imagined things would turn out like this. You're right, you didn't imagine this, I replied coldly. What you imagined was having one arm wrapped around Holly's waist while the other manipulated the entire market. You wanted both the money and the woman. Wasn't that the picture in your head? In fact, you don't even regret meeting Holly. What you regret is not hiding her well enough. I gave him one last look, full of contempt. Still, for the sake of old times, I let him stay one more month. On the 365th day after the divorce, my mom sent me a message. Coming home for dinner, sweetheart? I paused mid-typing, then changed my mind and replied, can't. I have a business trip tomorrow. The truth was, I didn't. I just didn't want to see him. My mother still didn't understand what my divorce really meant. She didn't even understand why I had urged her to get a divorce of her own. Every day, she tried to bring Andrew back to the house, hoping we'd reconcile. She didn't care that Andrew now had no money, no remorse. She just wanted things to go back to how they were. At first, I used to argue with her. But now, I didn't even bother. If I could avoid her, I would. If I could skip a meeting, I skipped it. When she saw I wouldn't come home, she sent a string of follow-up messages. Emily, are you really not going to see him? He truly regrets everything. Just be the bigger person and forgive him this once. He promised me he'll never make the same mistake again. So what if he has no money, no house? Doesn't he already have a home? People just need a bed to sleep in, don't they? Why does he need such a nice house? As long as a couple loves each other, everything else will fall into place. Seeing how deeply my mother was still clinging to the idea of Andrew, I finally told her the truth. Mom, back then, Andrew's private doctor was originally summoned to treat one of Dad's new mistresses. They'd been holed up in a hotel for 3 days straight, partying nonstop. The woman almost went into shock. Dad panicked, afraid she might die, so he called Andrew and had him send his personal doctor to the hotel. But you happened to suffer your heart attack nearby, and the doctor was rerouted to save you instead. Otherwise, how else do you think a doctor based in Paris just happened to be at your side in time to save your life? Wake up, Mom. Those men, Andrew, Dad, they're all cut from the same rotten cloth. They're not worth anything. Please, stop feeding them. I'm begging you. My mother didn't reply for a long time. Standing beside me, my assistant hesitated, then said softly, Miss Chen, did your mother know all of that before? Sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. I shut off my phone and wiped away the last tear from the corner of my eye. Love is the only light that illuminates life. That was what my mother taught me when I was little. A woman must always lean on a man's shoulders. That was another lesson she drilled into me. Even if the man is a dead tree, crawling with insects on the inside, a woman should still cling to his branches and stay still. That, most of all, was what she spent years teaching me again and again. But now, I finally understood. All of that was just her way of numbing herself. She told me those things because she needed them to be true. She wanted to prove her own sacrifices made sense. But I'm not her. I never believed love was the only meaning in life. I have other things I want to pursue, my education, my career, my freedom, and I don't believe I have to be some parasitic vine coiled around a dying tree for stability. I can become a tree myself, roots deep in the ground, weathering storms on my own, strong enough to provide shelter not just for me, but for others too. So Mom, from this day on, I won't be a creeping vine anymore. I'll be a cactus, a sunflower, a proud rose, or an eagle that soars alone above the clouds. The road ahead is steep, the path long and uncertain, but I know this: I'm going to live my life beautifully.